Hello, everyone. I'm Karissa with Shining Light on Minnesota. I am here with Mark Williams. Welcome, Mark.
Thanks for having me in.
Yes, you bet. So, The Curious Builder, and you have your own podcast, but you're also a residential builder. Let's talk about The Curious Builder and your podcast first.
Sure. Wow. So I've been building for 22 years.
Yeah.
And I would say about 3.5 years ago, I was completely burned out. I think, it wasn't a midlife crisis as we, hear about,
Right.
but it was mainly just like, do I want to keep doing this? Kind of just burned out, just kind of tired of doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And what I had once loved had just kind of gotten the repetition,
Yeah.
a couple difficult clients, I think just kind of took the joy out of it. And without going into the whole history of the different things that led me to where I went to, I decided to start a podcast called The Curious Builder.
Yeah.
And I was in the middle of a brand refresh for my own personal company. Like the idea that when I was 23, when I started my company, that you'd begin with the end in mind wasn't something a 23-year-old thought. So of
Right.
course I named it Mark Williams Custom Homes.
Yep.
And anyway, through it all, we decided to keep the name brand alone. We had one Builder of the Year, I think, in 2019. And someone had just wisely said, like, just because you change the name of your company doesn't make your company any more or less sellable.
Right.
And that was kind of like, yeah, that's a good point. So why rock the boat? Let's stay with the name that we'd had for quite a while. But during kind of discovery about my own personality and self, curiosity was my number one attribute.
Yeah.
So when I decided to launch the podcast, Curious Builder was just like slipping into a second skin, really.
Yeah.
And then, now it's been interviewing builders, architects, designers all across the country, really anyone who's a business owner. I just love their story, the entrepreneurship story. And
Yeah.
most of us got into our careers because we loved what we did. And then we had to figure out how to be an entrepreneur after the fact.
Right. Right.
And so really that's what the Curious Builder has highlighted. And the short version, we've gotten into wellness retreats because wellness is a big part of my life.
Yes.
Athletics. And then we do the Curious Builder collectives now in 7 other states. So basically we get 30 builders together quarterly to just talk about all this stuff. And that's the elevator pitch on the way up to the 100th floor.
Right. Well, and it's funny because everybody's like, tell me your story. I'm like, do you have an hour or do you want just the short little...
You need like 30 hours.
Yeah, I know, right? Talk a little bit about the health and wellness aspect of it.
Yeah, I think it's, I've always sort of gravitated towards what people tell you not to do. So at first they're like, you can't make money doing a podcast. So what did I do in the first year? It wasn't a lot, but I made enough to say that, we were in the black.
Yeah.
And then after that, I was like, you know what? I love, running and tennis and basketball and swimming and triathlons. And I mean, there's not a sport I don't like or haven't tried. And it's a big part of boundaries create freedom, which has been my favorite quote the last couple of years. And if you wake up early, you've got to go to bed early.
Right.
If you want to, have high level success, whatever that means to you or whatever wellness means to you, then there's certain things you don't do.
Right.
If you prioritize this, you have to, not do this. And it's very subjective based on what wellness is. And so for me, I'm like, you know what? I bet there's other builders, because I felt like there's a stereotype that builders are fat, hairy, lazy, alcoholic, flannel-wearing fatties. I'm like, I don't know hardly anybody. I mean, sure, they might exist like any stereotype, but like the ones that I network with, I mean, we do a lot of stuff together.
Yeah.
So I said, you know what? I'm going to go to Zion National Park next year. This was a year ago, last May. And we're going to have no phones, no alcohol, 2-a-day workouts.
Yep.
And we're just going to be in the mountains because I wanted all of the things that were important to me that have shaped me to like kind of create a place that people could go to. I had no idea if anybody would show up.
Right.
12 builders from around the country showed up in Zion.
Amazing.
And honestly, the hardest thing for them to do was get rid of their phone for 3 days.
Yep.
Like really hard for them.
Absolutely.
I had a number of people that actually asked if they could have an exception and check their phone. And I said no. Because if you can't, they would always say, I need my phone. No. You don't need your phone. You want your phone.
Yeah.
There's a difference.
Yep.
And so where I took that from is every year I go to the Boundary Waters with some family. And it's like 5 days of like, and it's
completely
just,
unplugged.
you just relax.
Yeah.
And it's funny how when you get away from your phone, you change your behavior.
Even if it's for like a day, just completely having that phone gone. Yeah.
So I think that's really important to wellness. I don't think our brains were created to be stimulated as often as they are.
Right.
And so it's a small break. It's once a year. It's not that big of a deal.
You're going to survive. You will live.
Yeah.
You'll get through it. Kids listening.
Yeah, you'll be fine. And so actually just 2 weeks ago, our second round was in
nice.
Costa Rica.
Oh, very
and
cool.
so we were there for 5 days with 23 builders, so it doubled in size.
Nice.
And same concept. I like to share with people different things that maybe they haven't done before. So, it was rappelling down waterfalls. It was surfing. It was whitewater rafting, and it was just seeing people act like little kids again. I mean, you have these mid 40 and 50-year-olds, acting like a bunch of 9-year-olds at a water park. It was awesome.
Yep.
So that was really rewarding for me.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun. Well, and it's good to see people being able to put the phone down. I mean, that's one of the big things too. Being able to get back to the roots, doing things outside, being active. People lose that these days. I don't care how old you are, what you're doing, being able to do that, getting back to the mental health, getting back to everything is important. What do you think is important these days for your children and kids too?
That's a great question. There were 2 books that had a huge impact on me. One is, I think it was The Social Dilemma. I think it was a special on Netflix about 10 years ago. And my kids are 9, 7, and 6. And I decided after listening to that, because have you seen it?
Oh yeah.
So it's like
Absolutely.
seeing like the people who high up at Facebook, high up at Google, leave and basically shelter their children from anything digital was like kind of eye-opening.
Right.
So because they saw what it was doing to people.
Yeah.
So at that moment in time, and I say this to entrepreneurs all the time.
Right.
You don't need to be that available.
Right.
And part of it was kind of my awakening about being an entrepreneur that do I have a job or do I have a business?
Right.
And personally, I think I still have a job, meaning that if you take Mark Williams away, I think my company could last for about a year with my current sales.
Right.
But ask yourself this, anyone listening: if you can't if you leave the company and it can't maintain without you, you have a job, you don't have a business.
Right.
And it was really sobering for me to hear that. I mean, when I first heard this 3-4 years ago, I was like, maybe my company could make it 60 days without me.
Right.
And now I've gotten better. And so the whole goal is, if I'm going to have an exit strategy to sell my company, I'm going to have to make it a business. Now, so anyway, just that really helped me think about it. So where I'm going back to the cell phones is I turned off all the notifications, all the dinging, everything. Shockingly, the only way to get a hold of me is to call me. That works.
Right, yeah.
And so I found that to be extremely helpful. But then one step further with my children, we have just decided that, I heard it, and I ask a lot of other parents, like, what are you doing? How do you navigate this?
Yeah.
I just finished the book, The Anxious Generation. And I think we're going to try it. We're just basically not going to have them have phones till they're 16.
Yep.
And then they make models where essentially there's no social media, there's no internet. Basically, these new modern phones can have GPS, so you can do directions.
Yeah.
Because no one knows what a Hudson map book is anymore. You and I probably do. He's
Yeah,
smiling
right.
over there.
I know.
'Cause
Let's get out of. Well,
he's like,
back in the day, they had maps, and trying to read a map when you're in a car, like seeing my dad try to get out a highlighter. I'm like, how is that safer almost than being on a phone? You have a big map in front of your steering wheel.
Yeah. So that's kind of fun. And then really just, it's about experiences, doing things together as a family. And we're doing a spec home right now called Mysa Hus, which means cozy in Swedish.
Yep.
And these kind of all coalesce because I wanted to create a modern home in an urban environment that felt like a cabin in the woods of Maine, or like a cabin in Montana, where we had one for a couple decades. And this idea is when you go to a cabin experience, nothing works,
Right.
which is
Being
amazing.
off the grid.
It feels so good. You relax in a different way. And so I feel like for what I'm interested in now, and I've never been this re-energized about building again.
Yeah.
The Curious Builder helped me from the business side, but Mysa Hus has made me fall in love with building again. And so that home will be done here this June. It'll be an artisan home tour.
Exciting.
And after touring your graphics, I think we might have to do some stuff in the garage for some prints. But anyway,
Right.
It's really fun to get really passionate and really excited about your personal life and how they can kind of coalesce with your business, or vice versa. I think they can inform each other.
Well, it's one of those things too. I mean, I've realized it in my own life. When you get older and you start saying, hey, I want to kind of get more off the grid, or I want to do something where I lived in Montana for a long time. I lived in out by Big Fork and on the Swan Mountain Range out by Glacier, and it's getting back to those roots, getting back to that whole lifestyle where you can do things without having all the amenities at your fingertips.
That's where our cabin was.
Yeah,
right out there.
it's absolutely amazing. You have the clear blue water and you have everything like that. And getting back to I don't know if I'd move somewhere where I have all the snow again, because I want to play golf year round, but getting back to just having all the amenities where you can, if you want to build something, you build something. If you want to dig, you can dig. Like having the excavators doing what you want to do is the ideal lifestyle. Getting back out in the country, which would be amazing. So you've had a lot of successes. Talk about some of the obstacles you've had.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think, it's interesting. I think one of the things that was the most eye-opening was having your, humanity is the wrong word. I'm pretty good-natured at baseline, and I like to think that we do a really good job for our clients. What I was not prepared for as a business owner is to have my my good nature sort of weaponized against me. So we care about a reputation. I saw up in your lobby that if you leave a Google review, you get the water bottle. Yeah. And I think a lot of homeowners or a lot of entrepreneurs, when they see like a Google review that's negative, it affects them because a lot of people have their self-worth wrapped up into their company. Right. And if their company then is under attack, they feel like it's an attack on them personally. That's a whole separate podcast. We could talk about that. Yep. But I realized that I was letting, because I'm conscientious, and I think that's a good thing to have. However, when a client essentially attacks your values, you're left sort of defenseless because your values are what define me. Yep. And if they have issues with those values, and you find out, not at the beginning, but halfway through the build, you're kind of left with this impasse. Like, how do we cross this bridge? And so it sounds very naive because you'd think at 45 years old I would have realized this, but it was kind of eye-opening to just realize like there's some bad actors out there, and I would just like to go through life that we know that there is darkness and that there is evil, but I'm so focused on the joy and good in people that I just don't give that enough time and space. Right. So I had, essentially two people that sort of weaponized my, my desire to have a good reputation against me. Yeah. And it was really hard to come to terms with that. It's
kind of one of those things when you talk about Google reviews. I think people dwell on those negative reviews instead of taking that good Google review and say, okay, let's backtrace the good Google review and figure out what we did right. Instead of let's go to the negative and figure out what we did wrong, let's go to all the good Google reviews and figure out how many things we've done right and just reprocess that over and over and over again. Too many people dwell on the negative.
I agree. I think also if we were to ask, we need to give people a better benefit of the doubt. Because if we are going to go look at a review of whatever company it is. Like, we'd be pretty naive to think that they're all, like, we all would love, let's say, a 5-star review. Right. But honestly, it's probably not either real or there's just not enough reviews because not everyone is going to like us all the time, which is fine. Right. And I saw there's this really counterculture. Have you heard of 1-star reviews?
Oh, yes. Yep.
It's brilliant marketing. So I was out in Utah skiing a couple years ago, and I saw this big billboard on the way up to Snowbird in Alton. I didn't get it at first, and it just says 1 star, too deep of snow. And then you see another one, it's like too steep of hill. I'm like, this is genius marketing. Right. And I've thought about, like, it's a little tongue-in-cheek, but now you can actually, it seems a little self-congratulatory, but basically, like, I could say, you know what, Chris, I'm going to go on your website and give you a 1-star review. But you'd want it to be honest because it seems fake. Right. And then I'd have you do the same. But then in that 1-star review, it'd be like, Sun Control did too good job of regulating the damaging UV rays in, I wish I had skin cancer. Or, I don't know, I'm just coming up off the cuff. But the idea, because most people will review the 1 star, and then when they see that, like, well, that's not that bad. No, right. And, like, I think for business owners, when you do get a negative review, just act professional. Yeah. And just respond and say, like, I'm sorry you had a difficult experience.
That's how you handle it.
Yeah. And I think that says, because people know that there are, crazy people out there.
Everybody wants they feed off the negative too, right? And that's how you handle it.
Yeah, I think another one is just, I went through 2008, that first crash. Yes. That was, some really, but I look back, I have a series on our podcast called Losers Are Winners. Yes. And I'm convinced that you really can't learn how to win unless you've been through losing experiences.
And everybody's gone through losing experiences, yes.
And I'm way more interested in what people have done and what they've learned from that. Right. And so I look back now, I wouldn't be the business owner that I am today, and I have a lot of room to grow, but even the things I have learned, almost all of them tie back to, losses, financial losses, making mistakes, hiring the wrong people, hiring the right people. I mean, it's just all of the experiences that ultimately give you the wisdom that you have today.
It's kind of one of those, like, your cup's half empty, half full. You don't get to where you are today without getting to the bottom to get to the top. What have been some of your biggest attributes and some of your biggest wins that you've had instead of all the losses?
Good question. I think just meeting some really amazing people. I love relationships.
Yeah.
And, I think sometimes people come into your life for just the right time, the right place, the right reason. And looking back, there's some of the most amazing people that we've had the privilege to work with. The home building business is super emotional, and that's good and bad.
It is.
But the good side of it is it'd be like, the high of a wedding. It's like everyone's happy, everyone's together. And obviously it's a relationship though. So it is very analogous to a wedding or dating or any of those types of relationship analogies because, for what we do, you're together for 3-4 years and ultimately maybe a decade or longer, depending on how long maybe their family continues to work with your company, things like that.
And they come back, it's building a house, it's doing everything else too.
And so I love at Christmas seeing everyone's Christmas cards and seeing like, little Laura, when I built her parents a home, she was 6 and now she's 16. And like, so you see the growth and a lot of times as a builder, you see these photos of the families in front of their homes.
Yeah.
And that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that reoccurringly happens with our people is driving by homes that you've built. It's kind of like, it's a tangible thing that you can actually see.
Right.
And in the world that we live in, there's not that many things, there's no shade on financial, but like you look at like black and white numbers all day, like, or if you're in investments, and again, it's just a different industry, but there is something deeply satisfying, like driving by, like that's a home where someone had their family memories, like children were born in that home. They've got graduated parties. They have all these different things that have happened in that home. It's a pretty unique career that we get to be a part of.
Be like, I did that. I made that happen.
Yeah, or we. I mean, it's a team. The other thing I've learned is like, man, you can't do any of this alone.
No.
And so it's, I'm honored to have just amazing craftspeople. And there are certain people that are able to go, our career from where we started to where we are now is much different in terms of what we can do. But we've always had amazing people.
Yeah.
But sometimes people, and their life changes, they want to stay where they're at. And as a business owner, sometimes we evolve or change or reach new levels. And sometimes those people want to come with you. Yeah. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes you have to pull them with you. And sometimes to our own detriment, you try to pull somebody that doesn't want to be pulled. Yep. And that usually doesn't work real well.
And lanes don't always stay the same. So they could start in one position and be in a different position later on too. How do you think the generations have changed from when you started to where they are now, as far as hiring and making people a little more get out and want to work a little bit more?
You know what's interesting? I know there's a narrative out there that the younger generation, honestly, it's just not been my experience.
No. They want to work, it's just smarter, not harder. It's a different kind of work.
It is, and I also... I look at a lot of the companies I work with, my electricians are young. They're all 30 and younger.
Yeah.
My cabinet shop, they're 40 and younger. And so I'm seeing a lot of my top tier talent. Now I've worked with them for decades, so I've probably met them when they're in their 20s.
Right.
But like they're constantly building their new teams.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see a big resurgence in the trades. Yeah. I think it's already happening. However, it's going to take time.
Yep.
I heard a stat recently. Mike Rowe from Dirty Works, remember him?
Yep.
He has he was meeting with like, some of the top people for like the naval, not Naval Academy, but like Navy industry, like building warships, like mass. And they're like, they made a comment. I could have these numbers slightly off, but it was like they need 170,000 welders like this year.
Oh yeah.
And he's got a really funny delivery. He goes, I know where they are. And they're like, you do? He's like, yeah, they're in the 8th grade.
Yep.
You're gonna have to create them because they don't exist.
Right.
Because for 30, 40 years they were told to be coders or told to do whatever.
Get them out.
And his comment was like, you know what AI is really good at? Coding. You know what AI is really bad at? Welding.
Right. Yeah.
And so I do think that there is going to be. And I think we're seeing it now. Yeah. And it also could be a bit of an echo chamber. It's other builders I'm talking to.
Yes.
It's schools that I'm talking in front of. And like I'm actively trying to get
I do the same
the next
thing,
generation. So I don't know if it's just me or if it's just my community or if that's actually also true in our country. I couldn't speak to that.
Well, I think it's another thing is to getting out there and teaching them to communicate a little bit more too, putting the phones down and actually having those conversations because they're not knowing how to communicate because they want to communicate with their phone, which is great. But let's go into those classrooms and let's teach them, hey, the trades are out there. Let's be an electrician. Let's be a welder. Let's be a framer. Let's get out there and, hey, I'm a lady and I never thought I'd be where I'm at today. Who thought I'd be in a tint business, or who thought I'd be, in the construction world? Let's go meeting with the grade schools. Let's meet with the junior highs and let's show them it's not all just with a hammer. There's so many things you could be doing. It's fun.
Yeah, no, I agree. There's right now there's a program, Minnetonka High School. I think they actually do it for multiple high schools. It's called the Vantage Program.
Yep.
And I think this is my 5th year doing it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to get a group of students. I think I meet them in 2 weeks from the time that we're
Yeah.
recording this. And we're going to talk about, they come to us as business owners and say, what would
Yeah.
be something real and tangible? And like, essentially you're getting 12 interns. What project are you going to give them?
Right.
And so I've had them do marketing. I've had them do research. I've had them, actually they helped me launch the podcast, which was super
Fun.
cool.
Oh, fun.
I just happened to be in the middle of doing it. I'm like, okay, let's
do
do
this.
this
Yeah.
together.
Yep.
And so seeing, kind of their eyes light up at something new and
Yeah.
exciting, I'm really excited about the future, especially, the kids are so much more accomplished than I recall myself being.
Oh, right, yeah.
They're light years.
motivated, yeah,
You got
right?
you got middle schoolers on LinkedIn, and you're like,
Yeah.
what is happening?
Right. Well, and just seeing their excitement. I know when we have so many classrooms come in here and they're like, wow, look at everything you guys do. And I'm like, when I was in 8th grade, I don't know if I was really looking at this stuff being excited about it. I was just like, get me through school. We didn't have cell phones and all that stuff back in the day, but the sky's the limit for those generations and everything that they can do and accomplish. It's exciting for them.
I hope, one of the things too is like just talking about entrepreneurship, the
Yeah.
hard part and the easy part. I think one of the biggest mistakes I ever made, you mentioned this earlier, and I'll bring it up now. I bring it up a lot actually. I didn't know what the difference between markup and margin is.
Yes.
And I didn't know for 18 years. Now I feel a little salty that my CPA at the time never told me, because they would have had the education to know that.
Right.
But my point is that I think people get embarrassed too easily. And so I do personally on our podcast, like I try to lead with vulnerability and lead,
Yes.
like these are all the mistakes. I've made a lot of
Right.
them. And guess what?
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to make a whole lot more.
Yep.
But like we don't learn unless we make these
your
mistakes and
foot
then share
forward.
them.
Yep.
And I think that's one of the reasons why I think we see such a hunger in podcasts and storytelling.
Right.
It's not like people like, I don't know if this
Yeah.
happened to you, like, oh, it's amazing. You're doing this new thing called podcasting. I'm pretty sure like FDR did like fireside chats back
Yeah.
in like the 50s or
Yeah.
40s. Like radio has been around for a long time,
100%.
which is
Newspaper, radio, all of it.
yeah, this is kind of the same thing. It's just
Yeah.
that now anybody can be a reporter.
Right.
Anybody can have their own voice, which
Yep.
is wonderful.
Yeah.
And because now you can kind of find either who the people that you like to listen to, the topics you like to listen to, and
Yeah.
I think it's great.
Well, and from being on social media, doing the podcast, there's always those people that are like, hey, you were doing this or you were doing that. I'm like, but you know what? You're noticing. Whether you like it or you don't, I'm the one doing it. You're the one doing it. We're out there doing it. We're making a difference. We're trying it. And my kids are noticing. Their friends are noticing. Get out there and try it.
Mm-hmm.
Put your foot forward and do something different. Think outside the box. You have to try something.
And
You make mistakes.
And do things that you enjoy.
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
I don't know, how long have you had your podcast?
3 years.
3 years.
Yeah.
Do you enjoy it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To me, I love it.
Yeah.
Like
Every day is something new, and you're hearing stories, you're sharing things, you're getting to know people. More so, you're dealing with losses, you're dealing with wins. It's invigorating. Yes.
I like the structure of it, and
Yes.
I find it that because you meet so many new people.
Yes.
It's kind of that dopamine hit.
And it's intentional. You're getting to know people on a deeper level. I see so many people throughout the day that are like, "Hey, Karissa, you're the sun control girl," or "I know you," and I'm like, "Who are you?" And then I do the podcast, and I'm like, "I know your story now. I know your kids. I know more about you." And then I can walk down the street and be like, "Hey, how was Mount Zion? How was that cool house that you built for the builders or modelers or whatever it may be?" It gives you that one extra step. Yeah,
I think the thing that podcasting does really well is capture storytelling.
it does.
And so, I think when we navigate whatever our life arc is or our story arc, I have become a big fan of just storytelling in general.
Yeah.
And I feel like I have a lot of room to improve, but like with Mysa Hus in particular, like we created a whole story and a brand around the home before we ever started it. And I wouldn't have ever thought to do that
Right.
without the Curious Builder and without some of those lessons that we've learned. And so I think, why are we attracted to certain companies? What story does it tell about us?
Right.
Or what story does it tell about them when we choose to either buy their product or wear their shirt?
Right.
And a lot of it we do without thinking.
Right.
And so I think, for anyone listening, depending on what the demographics of your listenership is,
Yeah.
I think sometimes stop. Like, why are you attracted to that company?
Right.
Or why are you wearing that shoe? whatever it might be.
What is your intentionality to it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think then it causes you to reflect on your intentionality. You're like, oh, wow, I've got to think about this a lot differently.
Yeah. Who have been some of your mentors along the way that have driven you to where you are?
I read a lot of books, so they just be hundreds of stories and books and people like that. A lot of memoirs and biographies, but I'd say probably, for sure, my mom and dad have been amazing role models as just people.
Yep.
I think I remember my mom saying that, regardless if you're successful or not, be kind to people.
Absolutely.
And my wife often says, it's a very famous quote by Maya Angelou, but people forget what you say, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. Yep. And I used to always wonder, people would come through our homes and they would say, I can't tell you what's different about your homes, but they make me feel different. And when I first heard that compliment, I didn't know what to do with it. I thought, well, man, they don't know enough about the house, right? But then I realized that for me, that's actually one of the highest compliments I could get.
Absolutely.
Because a lot of people are not trained in architecture or trained in design, and I'm not either. I've just done it for 22 years, so I guess I've done it a different way. But when people now say it, to me, it okay.
It hits home a little bit more.
It hits totally different. And so I think people, I find so many mentors around me by just how they act or how they conduct themselves, or little things that even in interviews, when I hear people, I'll be like, ooh, I'll write that down. And I want to apply that to my life.
Yeah.
And I think there's been I've had a few of my clients that have been, a lot of our clients are, you mentioned earlier, what are some, earlier memories, but one of them was I had a client that deliberately picked me because at the time I was much younger than our competition. And he said there was somebody that gave him a chance when he was younger. He's like, I believe there's greatness in you, and but without the opportunity to prove that you can do that, we'll never know. I would like you to build my house because of that. And I'm still talking about that, and that was 10 years ago.
Right.
And it just it makes me want to sort of repay that to
now
another
I want to find
young
someone
person.
younger, right?
Yeah, and I've had a number of in fact, I'm gonna Wednesday I'm gonna go sit down with a past client of mine, and every couple of years we just sit together for coffee, and he's the most interesting person I've ever met in my entire life.
Amazing.
Fascinating individual.
Yeah.
I feel like I just want to sit down. He would be an amazing person to interview, honestly.
Yeah.
Just mic up one of these amazing conversations. And
Yeah.
so I don't know, I guess I find mentors all around me all the time.
Right. And that's what's invigorating too, is just finding those certain people that you could just sit down and just talk to and just have that open relationship and open conversation with, and just dig down deep. Get past the first level and get down to that third level and be like, okay, who really are you? And let's figure this out, and why are you doing what you're doing?
We, at our boot camp retreats, we've been doing this thing called, do you know what a Jeffersonian dinner is?
Yeah.
And so for the audience that doesn't know, basically Thomas Jefferson would do this, get everyone around from around the world, let's say, and you'd have one question that a group of 15 or 20, and if you're at a wedding dinner and you only talk to the person next to you because it's too loud,
right.
you didn't even get to see the other,
right.
200 guests that were there. It's just too loud, and that's fine. But the Jeffersonian, it just really gets deep.
It does.
And so, I won't share what was shared just because it was private, but
right.
the 3 questions that were shared on 3 different nights, so when we were down in Costa Rica, was, what is the thing that gives you the most joy?
Yep.
What is the thing that gives you the most fear in your life? And the last one of the guests asked it. They said, if you could go back any point in time in your life and relive a moment, you couldn't change it, but you could relive it, what would it be? And for an hour and a half, for these these grown men and women to go deep, there were tears, there were joy, it was just a beautiful thing for people to put their armor down and get really deep about life. And that has been consistently my favorite part about boot camp. Here we are doing health and wellness and physical activity, but it was those conversations that I remember and that I enjoyed the most.
Well, and I know I've had a conversation with someone, it was just a simple thing like, okay, tell me about, what's your why? And then they give you okay, it's my kids. Okay, now let's go 2 levels deeper. Okay, why is it your kids? And what got you to that point? And now let's go 1 level deeper. And it's really trying to dig deep. It's not just okay, it's my kids. All right, but why is it your kids? What got you to that point? Let's get deep. Let's make it a little more meaningful.
Yeah, sometimes it's trauma that defines them. We asked a question a year ago, and the gentleman at the very end of it just said that, he just said that he couldn't answer the question. He spent an hour listening to everyone answer, and it was a question about your childhood. And he said, I had the hardest time because there was nothing in his particular childhood that he wanted to emulate for his own kids.
Right.
So he wanted to do the opposite of whatever happened to him.
Yep.
He wanted the opposite for his children. He was very much concerned with legacy.
Right.
And everyone feels differently about
Right.
what does legacy mean.
Yep.
My wife and I, with our 3 kids, you think about like, how do you become a good parent, or how are you a good parent?
Right.
I often joke that, when the baby's born, it's not like a handbook comes out too.
Right. You don't want to be, don't want to be I've failed as a parent. Like,
but
how do you know?
But
Right.
everyone's values are so different.
What to expect when expecting, like, what is that?
It changes. And so
Yeah.
for me, I look back at, I hope that every kid, and I mentioned before, mentors being mom and dad, I guess a little bit, but like my mom and dad were business owners as well. And so in a number, not only because my parents are amazing people, but because they left us such room to grow and follow our own passions. I give them a lot of credit for that. But one thing that really stuck out was mainly because it was the absence in my wife. And she said, you have so much confidence, but also so much love. And then it dawned on me that was really a gift that my parents nurtured in my sister and I.
Yep.
And so for my wife and I think that if I could be a successful parent, it would just be those 2 things. Could my 3 children, when they're adults, would they have just an immense amount of love in them for other people and for themselves? And also, would they have confidence that regardless of what other people said about them or whatever happens, that they would be confident in that belief? And really, I think they're kind of tied together.
Yeah.
And so that would, if my kids can say that, if May, Simon, and Tate can do that, I will consider that being an incredible parent. And that is really my goal for them specifically.
Yeah. To exemplify at least those 2 things.
But like modeling behavior, you didn't ask the question, but like what would be, I don't even know, I guess talking just off the cuff like this, I think you do the things that you love and you want to share it with your children.
Absolutely.
And so it's like, are you doing it so they see it, or are you doing it because you believe it?
Right.
And it reminds me of a spiritual thing that I heard years ago, and it was, I think there's a poem. It was called, I'd rather see a sermon than hear one every day.
Right.
And just the concept, like, I'd rather witness you doing what you love.
Yep.
And that is how I learn about it.
Correct.
And I think now that I think about it, like, my wife and I both get up very early in the morning, and I've gotten into ultra running the last couple of years for whatever unknown reason. I have no idea why. That's the other thing too. I think for a long time I was very interested, like, to know what my why is.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of a journey of self-discovery. Like,
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you what I don't know what drives me in many reasons. I have a lot of drive for a lot of things, but like, I think part of it is just the joy of it. Maybe that's the answer. I don't know.
It's the joy of
It's the joy of the pursuit.
Finding it. Yeah, the pursuit of finding your why.
And it never made sense to me
Self-discovery.
when I was a kid, my dad would say, you're so focused on, like, when we drive to Montana, it was 1,200 miles to Whitefish.
Yeah.
Well, actually, our place was in Corum or Hungry Horse, which is
I
just
know where it
north
is,
of you.
yeah.
And so it was 1,200 miles, and like as a young teenager, I just wanted to get there as fast as possible. I didn't
Right.
want to stop at each town,
No.
and plus it's
I'm not going to
Eastern
stop in North Dakota, South Dakota, all the
Wolf Point Circle.
Yeah, right,
you know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
It's I think the moon is more populated.
Yeah.
And so anyway, but like as you get older, you're like, what's the hurry?
Right.
Like, let's stop. Let's enjoy lunch. And like, so that's just a simple
Hurry up
analogy.
to get nowhere fast. Like what? Why? Yeah.
But I think, and this is hard, my own personality is faster.
Yeah.
It's
Oh, yeah.
hard for me to slow
As is
down.
mine, right.
So a lot of the things that I've done now with like boot camp or, our sauna retreats, or even we built a sauna during COVID, and I sauna
Do you enjoy it?
3-4 times a week. I
So I
sauna a
red
lot.
light and I cold plunge every day, but
Yeah.
we don't have a sauna yet.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, you need a
Yes.
sauna.
I
Oh,
know, that's
you're
what I've heard.
hardcore. You're doing cold plunge without the sauna.
I do. Yeah, I do a cold plunge and red light every day, but I don't do the sauna yet.
Anyway, just finding those times to be a little quieter or spend it with people.
Yeah.
I've now just started getting that my kids are 9, 7, and 6, and so I'm having them sauna with me. And my wife is like, "Oh, you can't do that." I'm like, they've been having kids in the sauna forever.
Yes.
I mean, look at the Finns. I mean,
Yeah,
they're basically
we've done
born
like
in
the
the sauna.
hot tubs and all that stuff when I was little. It's just, yep.
You just monitored, but
Yep.
so I just love bringing people together. I think the thing that brings me maybe some of the most joy, both personally and also professionally, the professional aspect is the Curious Builder collectives. We have them in 7 other states, but we have 3 of them here in Minnesota. A way to bring people together to talk about, those are specific about entrepreneurship within building. But then, I mean, that's really what boot camp has become, is to talk about life through the lens of wellness and like whatever that might mean. And so I think at the end of the day, I just love bringing good people together.
Yep.
And just, I feel like I'm an old soul in that sense. Like, I want to be the old grandpa, like watching the grandkids play,
Yeah.
except this is my peers. So I just
Right.
love watching my peers interact and get something from each other.
Yep.
And that gives me a lot of satisfaction.
Right. It's kind of one of those things too, when you watch people be successful and do what they do and spread their wings, it's like, okay, I know I've done my job. Like, I know you're being successful. I know you're happy. I know you're doing what I've taught you to do. Let's continue to branch out and see who else can do the next. Yeah. So you have your kids, your family. What do you have planned do you have any more trips with your family or anything new and exciting?
Yeah. So my sister actually, as we speak right now, just landed in Tokyo
Nice.
with her family, and Japan and Italy are the top 2 places kind of on our list. Our kids are getting older now, so we kind of want to relook at international travel.
Yep.
One of the most foundational memories I have as a kid is I was 13 or 14, and my family, we took 3 months off and lived in Europe.
Nice.
And, before internet, before you knew where to go, and we lived in people's homes and all that, and it was really cool. And I want to do something like that with my family. And I think for us, when the kids are like, my wife doesn't know all. This might be the first time she hears it.
She's going to hear now.
Yeah, she's going to hear now.
Uh-oh.
Is now she has.
No,
I have
she's
enough
good.
podcasts.
Yeah.
She probably will never listen to this podcast. She's tired of my talking. So the Annapurna Circuit is a 28-day trek around the Himalayas, around specifically Everest and K2 and a few of the other ones. And so when the kids are between 14 and 17, I would love to do a summer trip with them and hike around that as a family.
Fun.
So that's a more of a milestone one. But in general, like any entrepreneur, you kind of want to wait till things are kind of set. And so we have a couple big projects that if they move forward, it'll sort of free up. You feel like, okay, that's something I can indulge on. And so if that happens, maybe this fall, I really want to do like a hiking trip to Italy. My wife and I have been talking about it for a long time. I've been a number of times, but my kids have never been. And so that would be kind of something bigger, but more local. Take the kids camping. Just, they don't care. I mean, I live in Minneapolis. We could set up a tent in our backyard, and they would think that's the same as going to Glacier Park. At that age is there. They just they just want time together.
Absolutely.
So it's just
Spend
the simple
time.
stuff.
Right. And there's so many places that you can go around here, but for us, it's not the same, but for them it is. It's just doing something different, putting a tent in the living room and building a fort inside, or going out to the backyard, or going to Wisconsin, whatever it may be.
You're 100% right. My mom and dad are 75, and so 2 weekends ago, all 3 kids went to my mom and dad's, and Dad sent me a picture. He had sent up a tent in the living room next to the fireplace with the dog and pillows galore. And the kids are having a ball. You don't have to do anything that grand. I mean, I talked about some grandiose things, but like, because I want to do those.
Oh, right. Well, absolutely. Getting out of here, putting the phone down, getting out of Dodge for a while,
honestly,
change of
they
scenery.
don't care. I mean, you can do all, the car trips are probably, now they're old enough now to go sit in a car and go do all the...
But that's making memories for us, too. I mean, it's getting out of here, getting away for a little while, where we can put the phone down and get out of here, where it's, for them, it's staying in the living room. It's like we still have everything at our fingertips then, right? So your wife, she likes hiking, too?
She does. Yep. She's internal medicine, so she's a physician, and she really likes running. And but it's interesting. Actually, the biggest challenge for us is I'm extremely extrovert, and she's extreme introvert. And so it's kind of funny because the kids, 2 of them are just like me, and Simon, my middle one, is very much similar to my wife. And so just balancing what re-energizes people.
Right.
For my wife, it's being at home, it's quiet, it's cooking, it's reading. And for me, it's like I can be home for about a day. That's about my max.
But you're probably like I am when you get home. It's like, okay, I've done enough for today. I'm kind of tired of talking and doing all the things. So I can kind of deal with that now that I'm home. But you kind of keep going. So you have a lot going on. You have some homes coming up. Tell everybody about the next home that you're building.
Yeah, so there's this Japanese principle called misogi, or you're familiar with this term?
Yeah.
And so Kaizen's been a popular term for the last, I see you've got a 3M sticker, so I see it in corporate America, right? Like 1% better. Well, I read this book about a year and a half ago about misogi, like pick one thing that your next year revolves around. And I did it last year for the first time. I did one business goal and one personal goal. And the business goal was this Mysa Hus, this spec home that we created a whole brand around, a story. It's in Cottagewood. It'll be done end of May. It'll be in the Artisan Home Tour in June. It's going to be an incredible home. And really the whole home is based on wellness. So all the things that go into the home, I kind of went into it with this idea that if you build a home for everyone, you build a home for nobody.
Correct.
And so I wanted a client in mind, but more than that, I'm very good at building a custom home for somebody. Like if I was to build your home, I'd get to understand you, and what are you motivated by? What do you like? We'd have some things of Montana in there for sure. Maybe some cherry trees in the front yard, like the Flathead Valley. And so how do you do that when there's no client?
Right.
And so I really created sort of this philosophy, or like this filter, that when it came time for the designer, the architect, and myself to make a decision, it would go through this filter, and the filter would sort of get rid of the things that don't align, and became real. And then once we sort of went around wellness, that's when the whole project kind of unlocked.
Got it.
So anyway, it's natural materials, and then I've been amazed at how many partners we've attracted.
Right.
We have 32 partners on the project, which is really fun. It's always more fun to do things with other companies.
Oh, absolutely.
And the wellness industry in the United States is 1.9 trillion this last year. It's expected to double in the next 9 years, which is insane.
Well, and that comes out once people say, hey, what can you do that's green, or what can you do that helps, what do you have that's this or that's that? It really comes out of the woodwork.
Well, and then getting real, like what does it actually do? I heard an interesting stat that we spend 80% of our life in our homes. Like that's shocking.
Absolutely.
And it makes sense. I guess you sleep there and all those things. But like, this last summer, my other thing my personal misogi was I trained for a 100-miler last year.
Yeah.
And so for me, you're running outside. Well, we had all the Canadian smoke, right? So last summer was kind of brutal to train in Minnesota, but it got me thinking. We've got sauna culture, we have cold plunge, we have what we eat, but we don't talk all that much about what we breathe. Our lungs are amazing at filtering out toxin. Like I'm just blown away at what they can do. So with that in mind, it sort of inferred like some of the things I was doing at Mysa Hus. So like, the HEPA filters or UV filters, or we're working with Pentair. They're launching a brand new water filter called Naya. And they're launching it next week at the International Builder Show. In fact, after this interview, I'm heading over to Pentair to go do a tour of their factory and to see it in person. And essentially, most homes have like a water softener or a carbon filter or maybe an RO, reverse osmosis. This Naya, which I'm going to learn a lot more about it here in about 2 hours, basically filters everything out, but then also remineralizes the water with healthy minerals.
Amazing.
And I heard something recently, because now that we've sort of been talking about this wellness concept around Mysa Hus, I'm getting a lot of people that, you know what EMF is?
Yes.
So electromagnetic force fields, basically how we react to being around. It turns out your phone is the #1 issue.
It is, 100%.
Way more than electric outlets or anything else.
Yeah, we have it up to our ear in our face all the time. And
we have not paid the piper on that one. I anticipate there's going to be problems at some point in the future.
That's why they're trying to get rid of them, right?
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, where I'm going with this is, just companies that come to you because they're like, we're finding that people care a lot more about their health.
Right.
You see the explosion of NA drinks.
Oh, yeah.
You see a lot more people talking about, like, for instance, we forever use copper lines for our water supply in our homes.
Yep.
And for the last decade or 15 years, we've used PEX, which is plastics.
Yep.
And now I had a client say, well, do you know that copper actually is it hyperallergenic?
Hyperallergenic.
Yeah. And so now I'm having people ask me to put copper back in the lines. And so it's just interesting.
It's the ups and downs of what you hear, what you don't.
Yeah. And so anyway, it's not one size fits all. You really have to understand, like, what is the goals and what we can do. And it's frankly a lot more interesting.
Yeah.
And some people are like, oh man, this is not interesting to me. I don't want to do it. And I find
energy
it creative.
efficiency and everything out there, and what works today might not work tomorrow too. It's just the ozone layer and how we breathe and what we filter too is different. Yeah.
So anyway, that's kind of the two main goals this year is, finishing up Mysa Hus, and then actually last year at mile 66 is pretty ironic actually. So it was at 10:30 at night. I was at mile 66, and we were in Bend, Oregon. And wildfires the night before had been 800 acres, and they went to 18,000 acres the next day. So they actually stopped the race, bust us off the course because the town and the Three Sisters we were finishing in was under evacuation orders. So I've got to decide whether I'm going to go back and do it again. So I wasn't able to finish my goal last year. So
new goal.
But honestly, I wasn't disappointed at all. I think I got to the point I mentioned before about I've sort of been enjoying the journey and not as concerned about the destination. So was it disappointing?
You made it to where you were.
I can't necessarily say it was or wasn't. It just kind of was.
Well, it's kind of one of those things too. You set the goal, you get to where you are, you do it, you make the success of getting to where you are. You can't say you didn't succeed because you weren't there. You showed up, you did it. Life happens. It is what it is for that point. I mean, I know that I've played a lot of golf in my life. I played high school, played college, done all that. You know, you get to the point where I'm supposed to go pro, had the kids. That was kind of a life happens. You do what you do. You know, it's not one of those things that hold you back. It's life.
But you still love it now.
I play more now probably than I did then. Yep. Right. So it's a lot of fun. What do you think's next for you?
Good question. What is next? You know, I think someone asked me the other day, how much time do you spend looking to the future? How much time do you spend in the present? And how much time do you spend in the past? I spend virtually no time in the past.
Right.
I used to spend a lot of time thinking about the future just because I like creating things. And I wasn't very good at being in the present.
Right.
I think right now I've gotten much better at being present. So like, I'm really just looking at the next couple months. I mean, right now I'm maniacally focused on Mysa Hus.
Right.
And so that is really what's next, is really seeing that through.
Focusing on that.
But I'm now curious about how can I do other things with it? So we've licensed it and we copyrighted it, and I've had other builders in other parts of the country. Because if you come to me and say, Mark, I want you to build a house in Whitefish, Montana.
Absolutely.
Love it. I know lots of people there, but I'm only as good as all my people.
Right.
And
so I'm going to reach out to the people there and have them help
so
me.
how do I do that? So there's a builder in Missoula that wants to build Mysa Hus. And so I have to come up with a way to sort of license this, deliver it. What are my deliverables? So I'm kind of excited about, well, I'm a Minnesota builder with a national podcast and national kind of like, whether it's the collectives or coaching through the Contractor Coalition Summit or whatever other things I'm involved with. I can't actually build these homes in other places where, like, I feel like designers and architects. You know, I talked to a local designer today, David Zweber from David Charles Design. And half of his work is outside Minnesota.
Absolutely.
And most builders and remodelers, we don't have that luxury.
Right.
And so I think finding a way to sort of, not from another revenue stream, although that's obviously good from an entrepreneur standpoint, but also just from an interest standpoint, the idea that you could create something that someone else could use in their market, and more than just like, hey, here's a plan. Like,
here's
that doesn't
my
do it for
process.
me. Yeah, here's the process. This is how you do it.
Let's replicate it over there.
So I don't know. I'm excited to see what that's going to yield. I have no idea what it's going to become.
Right. You also have some book groups that you have going on in different places. What's the book that you guys are focusing on right now?
Yeah. So that was shout out to Tyler Grace. It was his idea. He just didn't want to do it. And I was like, can I steal the idea? Because
I'll take one more.
It's a great idea. So I'm constantly listening to podcasts or books because when I'm running a long time, I'm like, okay, I have enough self-talk here at this point. I'm out here for another 5 hours. I got to listen to something. So anyway, we're very strong with the Curious Builder in the Midwest for the podcast because early on, like this, everything was in person for the first couple of years. So it was mostly Minnesota businesses because people weren't flying in to get interviewed. They certainly are welcome to, but it's like, that's expensive and time and all that. So if I'm going to grow this, I need to really, I like the geographical model that I would go sit, in a place, whatever city in the country it is, and geographically, and then enough people would realize, like, oh, who's this Mark Williams guy? Who's this Curious Builder? And then it would grow. So I'm doing what I call the Smile Tour around the United States. So it's Q1 is the West Coast, so from Seattle down to San Diego, and then Q2 is down through the South, Q3 up the Eastern Seaboard, and Q4. So book one is Dan Martell's Buy Back Your Time. And so as I interview people, I didn't, and I certainly still like it, but I wanted to go over, I wanted to get rid of like, tell me your story, and as a host, you kind of want, you want to be interested too.
Oh, absolutely.
And so for me, it was like, I'm going to use this book to sort of be a lens or a filter to help, give the episode a little bit different flavor. And so we'll talk for the next 3 months. All we're talking about is really Buy Back Your Time. And I'm about halfway through. I'm not even done yet. So I kind of like the idea that as I'm reading and get a new question, we're going to talk about it on the next episode. So, here's the next
quote, here's the next chapter. Let's do this.
Because if you and I, as the hosts, lose interest, because not every guest is, every guest has a great story. It's up to us sometimes to pull it out. Some are it comes out a little easier. But I want mine to be entertaining. I want it to be educational.
Absolutely.
And I want to enjoy it. Because I'm not going to keep doing it if I don't enjoy it. So I felt like the book, and then Q2 is Psychology of Money. Q3 is Relentless. Have you read that one?
I've read that
one.
That
book is amazing. that is Kobe Bryant's trainer and Michael Jordan's trainer.
Right.
And whatever you do, you're going to want to do it 1,000 times harder than you're doing it right now.
Right.
And then the last book, Q4, is Unreasonable Hospitality.
Yep.
Have you read that one?
Yep, I read that one too.
That was my favorite book last year. I was like, oh, darn it, I got to do it again. It's just too good.
Well, it's fun when I get authors on here too, because then they start talking about their book and they always give me their book ahead of time to read. And I'm like, yep, a lot of them are coaches and a lot of them are, the kind of the same thought process, because the motivational coach has kind of the same thought process in mind, but putting it in their own words and really getting them motivated and wanting to learn and grow and do things is always fun too. Yeah.
So yeah, that's the 4 books that we're going to do next year. And so the idea is that by going around to different spots, like today I was on a call with a builder in Austin.
Yep.
They had no idea who I was, which is fine. I didn't know who he was either.
Right.
And so we both made a new friend.
Yeah.
And part of it is the Curious Collectives, which I have in Seattle, LA, Phoenix, Austin, Atlanta, Charleston, and Minnesota.
Yep.
That's where we're leading these small networking groups.
Yep.
So I'm sort of targeting those that happen to be kind of
The
around
smile,
that smile tour. So each time I get to their city, I'll stop, interview like 3 or 4 people in their collective, and then keep moving on. It's just a way to people
Refresh.
It's still very exciting that people are like, oh, I get to be on a podcast, which I love.
Some people are, and then some people are like, oh, it's my first one. I'm a little nervous. What do I expect? Or what questions are you going to ask? I'm like, I'd rather wing it and just do what I do. Because when you start to expect the questions, I'm like, it's not going to go as planned. I mean, there's one gentleman I had on that, he has a huge personality offline. He's got his own podcast. I know his whole family personally. He's, professionally, does all this. I could not get one answer out of him at all. And I was asking all the right questions, tell me about your family. I have one. I'm like, okay, tell me about where we're at. We're here. I'm like, all right, so we're gonna turn this into a commercial then. Let's just, show your store, show where we're at. We're gonna do all this. That's fine, no big deal. We'll wing it. It's what it is. You just gotta go by the seat of your pants. I get home, my kids are like, Mom, I'm like, it was a commercial. Yeah. I'm like, we're good. You don't need to judge me. I'm like, I'm doing it. We're good. I've got this. It's what it is. You never know what to expect, so it's fun. I mean, every day is something new and you learn something, and that's the whole point to it. It's being intentional. So if you had 3 words this year that could recap, or instead of having a goal, like incorporate who you are, what do you think that those 3 words would be? Because everybody always says, instead of having a goal, have 1 word. Well, I always say have 3 words.
Yeah. The first thought I come is somehow how I describe myself, and I guess I'll use this. Delusionally optimistic would be 2 of the words.
Yep.
Because if you're delusional, I should say it's 1 word, because you have to be delusionally optimistic. Because if you're just delusional, well, we're gonna have problems. So delusionally optimistic, and what I mean by that is, like, if you are, I think good things happen to good people.
They do.
I think good things happen to dreamers. And like, if you are putting it out there and you're optimistic, like, that is a great place to sit.
Absolutely.
Because even if it doesn't go well, like, you're still you obviously have to have some reality tied into that.
Yeah.
But from a goal setting metric and as an attitude, I don't know, delusionally optimistic is a pretty good one.
Yep.
I would also say joyous. And the reason I bring this up is it was this morning on my Instagram feed, because I was speaking about it on my last podcast, because my daughter came home the other day and she said, Dad, and my daughter has some serious fun attitude. Like, she is just all, I'm like,
happy and go.
I'm like, she's grounded until she's 30, because she's got some serious energy. I'm like, boys are bad, man.
Yep, stay away.
And she walks in and she goes, Dad, I aced my spelling test today. I spelled joyous, Joyous, and she's like just shaking around
doing
and
it.
and I was just like, this is okay. This is all
right.
She's basically me in a girl form. Yep. She's just like a lot of energy coming. And my wife was like, great, there's 2 of you.
Oh boy, here we go. Yep. One boy, one girl.
And what she said, she's like, Dad, I was up late last night reading a book, because they're doing this readathon thing for school.
Oh yeah.
And she's like, joyous was in it, and wasn't it convenient that I learned that so that today in the pod, and so she just
she's just loving it.
Who doesn't love? Give me some passion, give me some joy. So I'm gonna pick joyous for May. And then the last one, these are terrible responses to your question, but okay. I'm going to say comfortable being uncomfortable. That's not a 1-word answer.
Fine. No,
but like,
fine.
I think it speaks more to my mentality. It's actually kind of a family mantra.
Yeah.
My dad has always said his superpower is comfortable being uncomfortable. Yep. And sometimes in order for us to change, we have to sort of be uncomfortable. Absolutely. And it's not, sometimes it is really uncomfortable.
It is uncomfortable.
But I think when we can get comfortable being uncomfortable,
Yep.
we challenge ourselves and we take ourselves to places we would not have gone.
Yep.
And we challenge maybe ourselves physically, maybe we challenge ourselves in our relationship, maybe it's our business, whatever it is. So sorry those don't fit on a bumper sticker
that's
easily,
fine.
but
Yep.
those are my 3 responses.
Well, the reason I know someone had me do, I always have done just one. And they said, whenever you do that, try to use that in social media, use it in your podcast as much as possible. I'm like, well, this year I'm going to use 3. So my 3 were intentional because last year I had one. I'm positive because I always stay positive, and then momentum because you have to have momentum through what you do. And they're like, well, use that as much as you can. I'm like, okay, well, I can do that. I want to be intentional because I want to try to not really slow down. You don't want to slow down, but you want to be more intentional with everything that you do. I'm like, but trying to stay positive in everything because the world seems to kind of get down, or it has gotten down with everything going on.
Yeah.
And finding the positive in everything. I'm like, but there's just so much negativity, and I think having everybody stay positive in everything that they do is my big one. So
Yeah.
those were my 3:
I like
positive,
that.
intentional, and momentum.
I like
Yes.
I like all of those. The
Yeah.
momentum one. It's funny because when you hear other people say theirs, it's funny how it elicits a reaction from yourself.
Well, and then you start to use it, and I'm like, okay, now my phone, like every time I'm doing something, my phone's like, oh, you've got to have great momentum and stay positive. I'm like, I am staying positive. It pulls it up in everything that I do and say, and I'm like, okay, now it starts to trigger in whatever you do. So yes.
I mean, it's kind of like to piggyback on momentum, I think that's one I like the most out of this one, which is just, was it Isaac Newton? Once an object is in motion, it stays in motion until,
Yep.
I can't remember how that works, until opposite or force stops
force
it, basically.
stops it, yep.
But I'm just thinking
Yeah.
about when you are...
You got to have a change in motion and keep momentum going.
Motion, activity breeds activity.
Yeah.
I mean, it's sales through and
Yep.
through, just like, just because that didn't work doesn't mean
Right.
you should stop.
Yep. And staying positive and keeping that intentionality going, and just go, be happy and go. Yep. Yeah. So those are mine.
All right, I've got a question for you.
Yes.
What if you could go right now and play any golf course in the world, where would you go?
I would go back to Ireland and play Old Head of Kinsale. I went there a few years ago, and it's like Pebble Beach on steroids. And it's just, Ireland is amazing, and that's where I was, and that's where I want to go back to. So yes.
Oh, there you go.
Yep, there you go.
Is that on the travel horizons? You asked me the travel question. What's your next travel?
I went to Ireland. I would probably want to go to Scotland, I think, this time. Mm-hmm. Yeah, back to Europe.
Yeah.
Back to Europe. Yeah. I like Europe. Yeah. I think that would be fun. Getting out of the United States, I think Europe is amazing. Yeah. Paris, Europe, anywhere around there. Yeah.
I think what making it relatable to what I do in terms of like homes, it's interesting, and obviously I'm from the United States.
Yeah.
From the standpoint of like our cultural relationship with homes is a lot different than what it is in other parts of the world.
100%. Yeah.
And when I was in a Swiss family's home, and they look at homes as multi-generational to like the 5th, 6th generation.
They all sit down and they all have like family meals, and you have great-great-grandparents and grandparents, and they all share bread and break bread and do their things, and yeah.
But even, and I agree with you, and I think
Living
that's a
together.
manifestation too. Also, they live together.
Yeah.
That's something that's different than in the U.S. often. But also like the way they would invest in their home.
Yeah.
So like the idea that you would have anything that's not triple pane windows
Right.
is like it doesn't exist.
Right.
Because they're like, well, sure, it's cheaper for the first 10 years or 20 years, but by 50 years or 100
50
years,
or 100
it's
years.
way, the energy savings are, so
Yeah.
they think much longer than we do.
Yeah.
And I think part of it is, and it's not it's more of a contrasting example.
Right.
It's not a pro and con.
Well,
Because
the tiles, everything in the house, yeah.
I mean, the U.S. is pretty young. We're only, a couple hundred years old.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so
We're like, I'll have the house for 5 or 10 years and be on to the next.
the
in and
average
out and done.
homeowner is somewhere between 7 and 9 years is the average time in a home. I
Yep.
think that is going to change.
Right.
Mainly because homes have gotten so unaffordable.
Mm-hmm.
I just saw a stat this morning in the paper that homes are 50% more expensive today than they were right before COVID.
Right.
50%.
We had 2 of our kids that were looking for a house through COVID, and it's like, okay, nope, we're gonna just let you have one of our houses, and we'll buy a bigger house for us, and just kind of, the generational thing is starting to finally come around now for us here in the United States versus where it's ever been. But yeah.
I hadn't considered that, and I brought it up culturally, but maybe that's what's going to change our culture, because so much of our tax code and path to financial independence
Yeah.
and long-term savings plans, if you will, has really been tied up into owning your home. You hear this American dream. The American dream is that you could start your own business if you want, but then you would also own your own home.
Yep.
And as either or both of those become more and more difficult,
right.
especially the home part of it, it'll be really interesting to see how we navigate that as a society. Because I'm obviously very biased because I'm in it. Like I think we need a healthy ecosystem. I build at the very high-end luxury side of it, but just that's where my skill set and interests are.
Yep.
But like I'm just as happy. Like there's been a huge influx of like the tiny homes.
Oh, right.
But city codes and zonings aren't really. They don't know what to do with that right now.
Right.
You go out to Montana. I don't know because I haven't been there in a little while. But like I have to imagine it's a little bit more like do whatever you want on your land. And so, like, how can we create communities where this is more accessible?
Would you rather have 40 acres and have 3 or 4 little tiny homes out there in one big home, or would you rather have, one home and share it with everybody? Who knows?
I don't know.
Right?
I guess people will have to decide. I don't know what that'll yield.
Yeah, I'll just have the one home out on the 140 acres by myself. Have a garage, will be good. Yeah, so it's super exciting. Well, we appreciate having you on today, and exciting to see what happens in the next year with everything and how the process is set. And we'll have to get out and be on your podcast soon too and look for everything. And yeah, can't wait to hear your next hike and how all that goes too. Thank you so much for being on, and hope you continue shining light. See you guys later.